if you have a question that's specific to you about what you want to do content-wise, write it down in the new fancy notebook you guys have and save that for that question and answering section. And then obviously we got bathrooms are out to the left. We got food over here, coffee, yogurt, all that good stuff. And then we're going to take some breaks too. I'm not just going to talk up here for 4 hours and make you hold it in or anything. But and also, I'm really not that worried about it. So if you guys have to really get up and you're going to pee yourself, please just go to the bathroom. Don't do that, okay? Cool. So now that I got the boring stuff, would you shut that door for me? Thank you. Okay. Now that we got that, I want to really give you guys the goal. So when I signed up into Herbalife, which was the multi-level marketing company I did years before this, right? One of the things they told us about these events is if you kind of come into it without an intention or without anything you're looking for, you might find something, right? You might still get something. But if you come with an intention and a specific question, without knowing it, I will accidentally deliver that intention to you, right? It won't be because of me, but that's how it works, right? If you ask, when we had our mindset mastermind training in Tennessee, I asked all the guys there, we said, hey, before the guest speakers talk, I really want you to have an intention within your own mind about what you want out of this weekend. And again, the guest speakers will end up delivering. And I don't know why it works, right? But I know it does work. So I really, guys, want you to think about how you can leverage what you're learning here today and move forward, right? And so to begin, the main thing that I'm going to cover today, something I've never talked about out loud, right? There's going to be a little bit of stuff that I've spoke of, but the main thing that I've come to realize is the most successful part of me, I guess, and the thing that's helped me grow is what I have come to name, right? Especially the 4 laws of self-leadership, right? Now, to explain before I go into the 4 laws and what the point of them is and why you should, take these very seriously, I got to first tell you guys a little bit more about me. And now most of you have talked to me, right, and know everything, but not all of you know about the time that I almost messed up my whole life pretty quickly. And I don't know, some of you guys may have heard the story, some of you guys were there, some of you guys weren't. So a long time ago, I was just like most people, and I was just kind of doing whatever I thought was the best thing to do at the time. And part of that was when I went to college, I joined a fraternity. And I didn't join the fraternity right away, right? So when I first got there, for some reason, I was popular, and I didn't know that was going to happen at college. I thought I was going to get humbled, but I was out there, I was popular with all the people in my dorm room. And the problem, though, that happened is I noticed, just like me, a lot of these people in the dorm room had come to college as a freshman with the idea of creating themselves to be somebody who they weren't in high school and who they weren't the last 4 years. And a lot of us are in a new town in which we didn't live by these people, so they don't know me, so I can act however I want, right? I mean, I don't know how many of you guys did this, but I was like, yo, I'm about to be Mr. Cool Guy. I don't know what I'm trying to think I was going to be, but, I had this vision for myself that was much cooler than who I thought I was at the time, right, in high school. And and I'm very, extroverted in general, and I believe that's authentic to me, but I was like super extroverted. And I even started this thing called X Factor Nation. So one day I was at a party, and it's critical that you guys understand this, and as a joke, I said to a girl, she said, "What's your name?" And I must have been super not in the right mind because I said, "My name is X Factor, girl, what's yours?" Right? Now that'll have I don't know what possessed me to say that, right? And so I thought it was funny, she thought it was funny, right? And so the next day I get up and I go to our dorm room, and this is also another great idea from people, I don't know, but they have a building filled with 18 and 19-year-old boys and girls all in the same building, and there's just one little door separating you, right? And all of our parents are gone. It's like that Jimmy Neutron movie, right? But I don't know, that's a little millennial joke, I guess. But I realized, oh my God, I am surrounded by opportunity, right? And so I'd say to one of my friends at the time, hey, what if we started, I with him, and we're going around meeting the other girls in the building, and I'm introducing myself as X Factor and going like this every time, right? So my name is X Factor. And everybody, when they would say that, they go, "Why do you call yourself X Factor?" I said, "How many people did you meet today?" And they're like 20, 30. I was like, how many people do you remember their names still? They're like, not very many. Like, you're not going to forget the douchebag who said X Factor and crossed his arms. So you'll never forget my name, right? And then they would laugh, and that's how we kept going. And then like literally 1 week into this, I'm around college, and I cannot make this up. Like people are like yelling from across, like, X Factor, and going like this. So I even took it so far, and I would pull it up if it wasn't so difficult to do it right now. But I ended up creating a whole thing out of this, right? So I ended up going and deciding, okay, I found my first gap, right? I saw that there was this large building and large section of people who would like to talk to each other, but they're too scared to talk. They have too many limiting beliefs. Most of us keep in college, in this traditional dorm building, they keep their door open, right? So you're in your room and your door's open. So really, literally, you could just like walk and be like, hey, what's up? Like if you're not scared, right? So, but most of these guys, again, were creating a person they've never been before. And so they wanted to do this, but they had no idea how to go about it. So one day I get the bright idea, like, what if we set up a table and we sit in the lobby? And I'm like, hey, my name is X Factor. And I just meet people like on speed dial where they're all at, right? This is another, I didn't know it, but I was positioning myself, right? But I was like, okay, I need to do this. And then I took it so far, I put an X on my door with a tape. And this is where shit got real, okay? So I put the X on my door with this masking tape. And I tell people that my little crew at the time, I had this little group of guys who, God bless their heart, but they just were looking for a leader, and I said, I'm going to do it, right? So, and I said, I had my guys, I called them the founding fathers, right? I even gave them a name and had them empowered, right? And so I said, okay, listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go around with this masking tape, and it was purple on purpose, right? And I was like, we're going to go knock on doors. And we're going to introduce ourselves and tell them who we are. I'm going to do the whole X, what's up, spiel, right? And then they'll laugh, and then we'll say, hey, we're starting a community of people who are open to talking to other people and would like to make new friends. And if you want to join our community, we'll put an X on your door with this masking tape, right? And then you can walk through the hallway, and any door you see that has an X is cool for you to, what's up, and meet you and knock. They're open to meeting new people. I'm open, I don't know what. I'm 19 years old. I'm literally, I want to be honest with you guys. I'm making all this shit up as I go, 100% of the time. Like I'm just thinking on my feet here. And I'm like, okay, this is good. Well, it started off as like 2 doors and then 10 doors. And by the time my building had about like 260 doors, I had 130 of them X'd. And then I was getting people, I made a Twitter, and that's what I was going to pull up. You can still see the Twitter. It's up. It's called X Factor Nation. And I was getting kids from other dorms like, we need X Factor over here. But you literally can't get into other buildings. So I started recruiting other people to X for me. And then this is why I stopped it though, okay? I'll tell you what happened, right? One day, we're doing our rounds. I got my crew of founding fathers walking with me like lackeys. And I would literally walk front, and these guys would walk behind me. And I had to walk around, and I'd knock on the door. And I mean, it might sound like I'm giving myself props, but this is just weird that happened. Like, I go to this dorm with these girls that I had talked to already. And they're like, X, we made something for you. And it was like X Factor's room. It was like a little string decoration thing to go in my room. And I go to this is the moment I quit, by the way. I go to take a step to go grab it. And one of the dudes from behind me's like, no, I got an X. And grabs it and goes and hangs it up on my door in my room. And I was like, this is too much, guys. I'm actually just another 19-year-old just trying to meet girls, right? Like, that was the only reason I started this, guys. You are seriously looking for me to take you to a place I've never even been. Like, this is crazy, right? And so I think the reason that, I don't know why I did this, but what I noticed right there is that what made those people follow me, right? Like, I don't understand at the time anyway, I didn't understand what it was. Well, fast forward a little bit, I start to get creeped out by this, right? I'm like, man, these guys are so easily impressionable. That's kind of weird, right? Is it not? At least I think so. And so I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And I also have zero personal development at this point in time, right? I've never read a book. I read a book in school, but like nothing. I'm mostly filled with like Naruto at this point, right? Like there's no Naruto and rap. That's it. That's all I got up there. So it was nothing to help me understand of this situation. But I started to get into this point where I felt as though everybody wasn't being real, right? And I knew I wasn't being real. But of course, it's a lot easier to point the finger at other people than to say, hey, look, you too, buddy. But I was like, what is wrong with these guys? What would make them know that they're not getting any value and they still following me around? I don't understand, right? And I started to get into situations with other people because some people did not like the fact that I was very popular very quickly. And they did not like the fact that the girls, were Xing my doors and writing their names on the stuff. And then they immediately labeled me, a douchebag, self-centered, this guy only cares about himself, right? And at the time, that might have been true, but I really was not thinking of anything deeper than I just want to talk to as many girls as humanly possible and maximize my potential. That's it. That's the only thing. And it just happened to spawn all this other stuff. But I realized, okay, nobody's being real. And then once people started getting upset with me, well, how come you ain't just say it to my face? So I come from a group of friends that we were very bluntly honest, almost borderline harassment, right? Like, so it's the point of like knowing I was confused why nobody had really like said to my face. Now, I mean, I'm 6'2", but like there were some other big guys that didn't like me. I was hoping one of them would speak up, but nobody ever did. And then that started to feel weird to me. And then I started to realize that everybody was just going to tell everybody else in these dorms what they wanted to hear, right? And so they were all just, again, pretending to be this other version of themselves. That's why the X Factor thing popped off because, everybody wanted to talk to each other. But when you're not being authentic, you also aren't confident, right? There's no way to be inauthentic and confident unless you're a psychopath, right? Like, I think there are some truly psychotic people that can lie that good and be confident and not authentic at the same time. But you have to do both, right? And so I came up to this point where I'm starting to feel weird. And you can ask my mom here in the court, right? Like I was coming home every weekend because I was starting to feel like all these people who I met weren't real friends. And they weren't doing anything wrong to me. Nobody was being mean. I just felt as though they weren't really telling me how they felt 99% of the time. And it was like this feeling of disingenuous. I just didn't like it, right? It was all bad. So then I joined the fraternity. Why? Because the first time I go to this fraternity, my friend from school had me join it. The first day I entered the building, right? I come in and I got my poorly fitted shirt on, right? And immediately as soon as I open the door, somebody's like, bro, what is this dude got on right here? It starts flaming me. And I thought, oh, I'm home. Nah, that's really not, that maybe there might be some things to that, but I felt like at least these people were real. Like at least this dude had enough, courage to make the joke. And I thought it was funny. I come from friends who that's how we joke with one another. So it made me feel more at home being made fun of and it feeling real than to somebody telling me they like everything about me and you're this cool X Factor guy and you're the leader of the thing and I'll do whatever you want, X, right? That was weird. Like that, I didn't like that. But some dude being like, bro, get a bigger shirt, thick boy. That one, I was like, I appreciate that, dog. Look, I'll hit the gym next week, right? And so I think about this though, the problem is that I still didn't have leadership. And I learned a lot of things in the fraternity. We learned how to do meetings. I've never seen a group of people bounce back. I think this is like mind-blowing. I think you kind of grow up as a kid thinking adults are like this big superpower, like they have everything figured out, they know everything, authority, right? And then you grow up and find out that that is not the case at all, right? And so I think the first realization of this is one of the fraternity brothers I met was completely blacked out, wilding, dancing with girls on a table, crazy stuff. It was like a week later, I saw him in the daytime, and he comes out of the fraternity house with like a suit and tie on. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm a teacher. I go, oh my God, this is what my teachers were doing when they weren't at school? What's going on, right? Then you realize teachers are regular people just trying to get a job, right? Like that, they're not saints that just live at the school and turn on when the school turns on, right? But that's what you think as a kid, right? These people are perfect humans that would never do anything bad, right? But the long story short is, in the fraternity, I found a leader, right? The thing about fraternities is that there's leaders in order for them to get built. I don't know if any of you guys know how you build a fraternity, but essentially, if you can get 5 guys to agree, you got a little chapter, right? And if you can get 50, then you have to be officially recognized by the school and you become an official chapter of that fraternity. There's some other hoops and stuff you have to apply with the big dogs, but the point is it's just a bunch of people getting together. So I was taken in by this extreme leadership that this group had. And so I still never had any self-leadership though. I was just following orders. I was just doing what I thought I was supposed to. So what do we do in fraternity leadership? Right, we drink Thursday through Sunday, baby. Look, every day. And sometimes on Taco Tuesday or Tequila Tuesday. And, Wing Wednesday. You got to have beer with wings. So, we can't, Jesus. And Monday Night Football, geez, pizza, beer, that goes together. It makes sense, right? So next thing I know, I'm like this and very sad. I don't know why. But I'm thinking, I'm following orders, right? I'm living my best life. I was also very popular. I was the social chair at my fraternity, which, if you don't know, means I'm in charge of talking to the sororities to make sure we link. You see, I'm always focused on the goal. In college, wife. And so, in college, right? Like, it was a long time ago. No, but I had realized, right, so I'm living this best life, but then one day, because I have absolutely no self-leadership, I get offered an opportunity to do some substances that I had never done before, right? And the first time, I'll be honest, went great. I watched the movie Avatar, thought I understood the meaning of life, and I was like, this is the best day of my life. The second time went much different, right? And the second time I did these substances, I am at the top. I'm thinking, hey, I'm the best person in the world, social chair. Talking to all these sorority girls. I'm a big dog. I got pledges of my own right now. I'm like, go get me a beer, dude. I'm like feeling like I'm the man. And then I take a substance, and 8 hours later, I wake up in a hospital. I've tried to jump out of a 2-story window. I fought all my fraternity brothers. I was overheating, and had they not taken me to the hospital, I probably had permanent brain damage and been tripping for 3 days. It took them 5 hours of putting me on IV for me to even realize I was in the hospital. I was yelling at the cops until that point, night, N-word, right? That's what they said. That's how I was going. That's how far, not in reality, I was within, right? And so then I wake up, I'm looking at this nurse. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? Why am I here? And this guy, I used to paint this dude as a villain for a while, but he was so happy to tell me what I did. Like, I will never forget his face when I was there. And I said, bro, what's going on? Like, I'm not supposed to be here. I was just in my room. He's like, no, I know you don't remember. You took a lot of drugs, dude. That's what happened. I'm like, Jesus Christ, shame. I'm like, and I'm feeling terrible right away. And so then I realized, I wake up 2 weeks later. I wake up the next day. They say, hey, you're suspended from the fraternity. If the headquarters finds out, they'll get rid of the whole chapter, bro. 2 weeks after that, I go to work. I'm beat up. I can't talk. My voice is hurt. And I find out that there was a cop at my house looking for me because there's now a warrant for my arrest. Then 2 weeks after that, I found out that I am going to be on probation. Not only that, I lost my financial aid and got evicted from the apartment that I was living in because there was a cop, like a drug charge. It broke the lease or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, sounds great. And then 2 weeks after that, they're like, yeah, you're not going to get financial aid next year, so you can finish this semester, but you might as well just move home. And I came home, okay? Beaten, boom, hitting with the stick, right? Now, the reason I bring this up is because in this moment, I had one of the single greatest thoughts that I've ever had in my life, and I'm really grateful for this. And I really don't know what put this thought in my head, right? But there was a point where I had 2 weeks left before I was going to move home, and I know I'm in trouble. I know that I'm losing this fraternity stuff. I know everything's basic. Everything at the time that I loved and cared about is gone. 8 hours, I don't even remember it. Everything I just told you, I thought I was seeing dreams and living the best life. Have you ever watched Harold and Kumar and be like, man, how don't they not get hurt when they're visiting? You do get hurt, just so in case, if you're not seeing what's in front of you, right? And I was like, man, my life sucks. And then I had a thought, and I said to myself, this is either the really bad part in the movie or the anime where, every anime I've ever watched or every movie I've ever seen, the main character starts off like it's in there for a reason. It's called the conflict, right? The main character has to go through something in the movie. Every single movie starts out the same way. Introduction, you meet the characters, you figure out what their goals are, then a problem happens, and then they spend the rest of the movie fixing the problem, and then there's a resolution. I mean, they all go like this, right? And so I had a sudden thought came to me. I was like, dude, maybe this is just your conflict. Maybe this is just a little bloop in the movie. or the start to a very bad life. Those are the options, right? I thought this to myself, and I thought, well, I'm going to just choose the one that I'd prefer to hear. And if it's the other one, I'll find out when I get there, right? And I had no idea that this is a whole way of thinking, right? But I just felt right at the time. That's what I did. And so that led me to read a book for the first time. And I actually spent 6 months deeply depressed in my mom's house, sitting in the house, to where social media was different back then, especially if you guys watching this, right? Back then, social media only showed you your friends' posts, right? And so if you had read all of your friends' posts and you pulled the thing down, nothing else would pop up. Like you couldn't just keep scrolling, right? So every day, my favorite part of the day was waking up and checking the couple hours of social media that had been gone on that I missed while I was asleep. Because after 30 minutes of being awake, I was caught up. I knew what everybody was doing. I knew absolutely what every single person was doing. Every 30 seconds, it would be like the Twitter back in the day, I would pull it down and it would be like tweet from 35 seconds ago. I know people back that time were like, what is it? Like, is this guy just waiting for me to post or something? But what happened is in this very deep, dark place in the Valley of Despair, I found a movie called The Secret by Bob Proctor. Now, for some reason, this movie gave me hope for the first time in 6 months that my life didn't have to be this bad script that looked like it was getting played out, right? Because in the book, basically the guy says, whatever you think and believe you can have. And I thought, oh, well, man, shoot, maybe I'm not cooked. Maybe I can have, this nice life. And that was 10 years ago to the day, right? It was in 2014, right? And from that point forward, everything that I've learned in these 4 laws of self-leadership, what I've realized is I've had lots of up and downs over the last 10 years. But when it comes down to it, there's 4 main points that happen that I can look back and really see over the last 10 years of what's gone. So I'm going to start off by going through those now. And the first one, right, is kind of what was happening. Which is, the law of chaos, right? Now, I wrote that down. Now, also, before we get started and me really getting into the meat here, I want to say something about this. Something I learned from my mentor, Myron Golden, that really changed the way I take notes. He said, you should not take notes on exactly what people say to you that inspires you. So if I say something here, you guys are more than welcome to take notes, and I'm going to be getting you this recording as well. But what you should take notes on instead is what you think of as a result of something that inspires you. Because when you do that, you're beginning to learn to take notes on your own mind and imagination, and there's nothing more powerful than that, right? And that's what Myron said. I took it to heart. He makes a lot more money than me, so I'm going to be listening, right? And so the law of chaos, right? This is the first law. So that's what was going on in college, right? I'm going through here thinking, hey, what's happening? Why is all this? It seems like, how many of us, yes or no, have ever been every time I take a step forward, it's like the universe takes me 3 steps back, and there's always some bullshit that happens to me or whatever, right? If you ever thought that ever in your life, right, this is the law of chaos happening, right? And usually what happens, what I've come to notice, is the main reason the law of chaos happens is, and I write slow and terrible, so if you can't read, don't mind me. The result of unprocessed thinking, okay? When you start a thought and don't finish it and do not process the things you're thinking, the thought does not disappear, okay? I'm going to give you guys a little example of this. We have a little, Jesus God, we need Clark up here drawing because I can't do it. But if you have a trash can, right, let's just say, and you fill it up, or a better example is like a filing cabinet, okay? And every time you have a thought and you don't finish it, you don't just get rid of the thought. That's what people think happens. Like when you're going and say for you guys in a business, you're thinking, okay, you wake up like it's Monday, I'm about to take action, about to get it. This is my business today, I'm the man, blah, 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 right? And then you go and say, all right, well, what am I gonna do today? Well, first I'm gonna do this. I think I should do that. I think I should do this. And then you get on your phone and you check your social media, and then you see that the guy that you look up to has just made another $10 billion, and you're like, ah, damn, why am I not doing this? What's going on? And then you totally forget the unprocessed thought. Boom, it goes in the filing cabinet, right? Until you process a thought, when you process a thought, it goes in the shredder, or it goes to the person that it needs to go to, right? Whatever the file needs to, like if this is an office, right? But if you just start it and then let it fester or don't finish it, it goes in the filing cabinet. Now the problem is the filing cabinet has a limited amount of space, right? It is not infinite. Even though it feels infinite, even though most people don't really warn you that it's not infinite, it is, right? And so what happens is this isn't a quick process, right? This is like, okay, I was supposed to make my social media post. Okay, I also need to do my outreach. Okay, I also need to check my ads. Okay, my kids also have something they need to do. Okay, I told my wife we were going to go on date night. You know, I really been wanting to go to the gym, but I haven't gone. You know, last week I didn't hit my PR. You know, matter of fact, bro, I seen that thing that, right? It's crazy. And with social media and with the way things go, we have like millions of these thoughts all day, especially if you're not intentional about processing them and putting them in the shredder or getting them where they need to go. Right? Like this is super important. So the law of chaos, the reason why it's the law of chaos is because what happens is when your internal file cabinet is too full, it begins to make the whole room look cluttered. When really, it's a whole room, right? There's lots of space. So then you start looking at your life and saying, these unprocessed thoughts are the reason I feel like my filing cabinet is full, right? You're going like, I'm so stressed out because I have to do all this, or I have to do 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 that, right? And you're thinking about these things all day. And anxiety, right, especially if you're going to sleep like this is the most critical time, right? When you go to bed, right, we'll save our views for a side, but when you go to bed, it is the most critical time for you to monitor and process and shred or move whatever it is you're thinking about. It's not something you can take lightly. You don't have the luxury of being able to scroll on your phone and live like 98% of people and do the things that everybody else does and watch TikTok and watch all these things right before bed, not get any sleep, and then wonder why you have the law of chaos. It don't make any sense, right? It's not the things, I promise you. You guys are way more capable than you realize. There are people who are 9 and 10 figure entrepreneurs who run like 150 companies at one time. And they have a family life, and they have their kids, and they, like, how do you do that, right? It has to be, we all got the same 24 hours, so they don't have more time, right? Like, they don't have more of it. They just have to be better at processing their thoughts and making sure that they go to where they need to go. Because if you spend time in the wrong places, then the filing cabinet doesn't get sorted, there's nothing getting processed, there's nothing getting sent to who it needs to go to, and then you end up in chaos, right? So this is the first thing, right? Now, how do you make sure with each law was going to be like the problem, and then like, what do you do to solve it, right? The problem is all these unprocessed thoughts. The way to solve it is to make sure that when you notice your filing cabinet, at the minimum, right? I'm not going to ask you guys to become like yogics, like in mental warriors and be able to sit there perfectly, right? I am going to say though that when you notice the filing cabinet is full, when you realize that that's what's going on, you have to process it. It's not a luxury. It's not something I think I should do. It's not something to do. And Jim Rohn says, in order to increase your value in the marketplace, which is the only way to make more money, right, is to increase your value in the marketplace. The best way to do that is to work on yourself harder than you work on your job. And he means something really profound here, but if you don't get it all the way, it's hard. Like, if you working on yourself looks like processing your thoughts at times. I tell people in the program all the time, the stuff that I do on a regular basis is not normal. But also, it's not normal to not be in the law of chaos in these days. It's not normal, right? It's more normal to be dealing with a full filing cabinet. And then here's the worst thing you can do. When your filing cabinet's full, the worst thing you guys can do, and I'm telling you, we've all done it, is to go up to somebody else who their filing cabinet is full too, and to ask them to process your thoughts. What? They got their own filing cabinet. Everybody has their own filing cabinet. You can't even properly, here's the other thing, how can you expect somebody to file their cabinet and yours isn't. You cannot teach from a cup, like it don't make sense, right? It's not helpful, right? When you say, and sometimes people think they're being helpful, and really you're just adding more unprocessed thoughts for these people to just fill up the cabinet, right? You're like, hey, let me, look, you need to feel better now. Why do you need them to feel better? Is that for you or for them? Whose filing cabinet are we clearing out here? Yours? Because you don't like to see them upset? Because if they need to clear their cabinet, they need to do that, not worry about you, right? So a little tangent, but we'll go on there. This is the law of chaos, right? So the number one way to get rid of this is to really make ownership and to make a practice of processing your thoughts, right? And this is mainly important right before bed, but also you guys can incorporate this throughout your day by practicing intentional breathing. So we'll go to the next law, which is the law of fear, right? Now this one is my favorite. We all have, how many of you guys have seen the full fear wall talk? Show of hands. Okay, cool. Gang. All right, so Bob Proctor talks about this, and I'm really taking it from him, if I'm being honest. But I watered it down so you guys can get it in a direct format. But whenever we start off in life wanting to make a significant change, we start off only wanting to change something because we recognize it to be negative, or we recognize our filing cabinet to be full. So what do now, right? You didn't recognize you got all this stuff, you're floating in your head. You're like, okay, I need to start being more intentional. Now you recognize, okay, my thinking up here is negative, so therefore my actions are also not just negative. And when I mean negative, I don't mean like, you're not hurting anybody by, I use this example, you're not hurting anybody by playing Monopoly Go, right? It's not painful, right? But it's also not part of the goal either. So this is what I mean by negative. It's detracting away from what it is you want to go. So if this is our start, where we want to play, and this is where we want to get to, where we have all these positive thoughts and we're positive action taking, we're in full alignment with who we want to be and how we want to be it, right? Then there's an interesting part in the middle that keeps most people stuck in what I call the infinite cycle of broken promises, right? And that is this big old ugly wall of fear, right? And now what is the fear wall? It's not just being scared, right? Like when you're like, okay, I want to start a diet. Anybody's afraid of salad, or you know what I mean? We're not afraid of the kale, right? But it is the fear of uncertainty. And I'm not going to write this down because we're out of space. But uncertainty, isolation, and uncomfortability, right? These are the three main fears that go in the wall when we're trying to make a positive change. So the law of fear is basically stating two different things, right? Number one, in order to get our dream life goal change, doesn't matter what it is, you have to go through fear. It is a requirement. It is not an option. It's not bypassable, except for with one way, and I'll cover that shortly. But it is still going to show up, and if you don't know how to attack it, then you're never going to get through it, but there's no way to avoid it. A lot of times, I hear people, like on sales calls or just in live talking to them, I think majority of their suffering comes from their incessant want for there to be no fear at all in life. It's never going to happen, right? Jim Rohn, hey, after fall, regular, every 6,000 years, what comes after fall? Winter, right? Some are going to be short, some are hard, some are long, but there's always going to be in winter. And to act like when the snow comes out and to freak out, if you live in a place where the winter happens, it doesn't make sense, right? Jim Rohn says that if the guy comes, it's like it's light outside and then it's dark, right? There's a polarity in life. And that's how it is. If a guy comes outside and it's dark and it's going, what's happening, right? He's not been here long. That's what he says. and the point is that in order to break through this wall, it's going to also require different levels of commitment along the way. So I'll give a perfect example of this. So what happens is this middle ground, this is going to be you guys after you leave here today, right? You're going to be filled with all these positive ideas. I've seen this 1,000 times. I know. You have all this stuff you want to do, you're thinking of, that it's whatever, that you're inspired to think. And then you're going to go apply it. And I guarantee, please don't be alarmed, wall of fear in life will strike you immediately. I mean, the way it usually works is they give you a quick win, and then it comes, it humbles you real quick with the stick to see if you're really about that life. And the reason being is because the skills you learn in the fear wall are the foundation for the life that you want to have. I could not have learned how to process my thoughts, how to attack fear, how to move through, how to have any of this conversation without the story I told you guys in the beginning. I had to lose everything to realize what was important. If I had any of that stuff, nothing would have checked me. I would have kept thinking I'm light skin of America, right? Like I would think I'm second coming of Drake, right? So that's what I think, is happening, right? So nothing would have stopped me had I not been humbled. And again, this happens even further within my own business, right? Within the coaching business. A lot of you guys have known this. I'll get more into particulars with this one in the second section, but like every time you start something, you're going to figure it out and you're going to get some results. Okay. And you're going to keep going. But then the wall is going to hit you. And what most people do is when they start, they go, okay, I need to start with my business. I'm going to post on social media. I'm going to do these outreaches. And then they start doing it. And the first wall comes up, right? That first video gets like 4 views. But they know, because Arius told them, don't get discouraged. So they're like, whatever. I don't even care. Boom, fear wall passed. You made it. Level 2, right? Now level 2 happens. You post another video. That one gets views. Huzzah. You get 35 likes, right? You're like, I'm the best. Now I made it, right? Boom. The next video you post, even though it's like exactly the same as that one, back down to 4 views again. You're like, oh, okay, now I thought I knew what I was doing. Now I don't know what I'm doing. What's going on? But you decide anyway, you know what? I'm going to stay consistent because Arius told me. So then let's say the next wall is somebody, Lord forbid, comes on your post, comments, and leaves something hateful, bad. You are an idiot. Why dare you? Why would you even post this? Whoever told you to post this is a dumbass. Like, I've seen everything on comments, right? Fun fact, I have a TikTok with like 64,000 followers, and every time I had a video hit over 10K views, every single time there is at least one completely out of pocket, has nothing to do with what I said or anything, comment. Every time it gets a certain amount of views, there's going to be that, right? And I also heard this, there was a video where this guy, I was just seeing this on the internet, this guy was talking about, he's a cab driver, and he's like, yeah, sometimes when I'm having a really bad day, bro, I'll go and like comment on people's posts, like hateful things. Right now, I can't resonate with that. I've never been that low before. Like, I don't know, right? But that is a real thing. Right? And that's what it comes. But it doesn't come from the person posting. It comes from that guy having a bad day. So let's just say you figure that out anyway. You're like, okay, focus. I'm going to keep posting, right? I'm going to keep doing it. Then I'm going to do an even bigger one. Let's say you get a video editor and pay for things. You're now spending money to make this content. And you do it for 6 months. And nothing, crickets. Nobody does anything. Nobody comes to see you, whatever, right? What are you going to do? You got 2 choices. Number 1, you continue on the path, you learn a new skill, you get better, you figure out the way through. Number 2, which is the much easier and more fun path, is to run on back over here, right? And to start the loop again. Because also something that happens is usually you're in what's called the valley of despair over here. And when you're in the valley of despair, I've made a bunch of videos on this, the most attractive thing to somebody in the dark is something shiny, right? So what happens is a new opportunity that's at the start says, please come over here and try this. This will save you. And usually it's the same thing that you already know is negative, won't get you results, but it's more comfortable. You're more used to it. You're very aware of what you are in here. So there's no reason to be afraid of it. There's no fear, right? I'm going to go do that. That was working. You know what? I tried this new thing. Too scary, too hard, too difficult. Let me back out and go here. But the only problem with this is that when you go to bed, what happens? All you think about, what I could have done over here. And now all the filing cabinet starts piling up, right? And so how do you get through the law of fear? There's really one super simple hack. And this may seem almost too easy, but it's the truth. This will fundamentally change your life, okay? If you can imagine with a world-class, and I mean world-class, imagination what it would feel like, smell like, look like, sound like, and taste like to be on the other side of that wall already. That will fill you with enough confidence and enough motivation to go through it, actually. Because the thing is you don't really need to be able to climb up a mountain. You just got to be able to put one foot in front of the other in the wall, right? You don't have to. That's the only way to get up there, right? That's it. And so how do you put one foot in front of the other, especially if fear's hitting me, especially if I'm uncertain or isolated or, uncomfortable with the way that this guy is telling me to do this? Well, then I just have to imagine of what it would feel like for 30 seconds. I'm telling you guys, 30 seconds right now. I want all of you guys to really just we're going to take 30 seconds, close our eyes and play full out, okay? To just imagine what it would feel like, sound like. You can pick a room that you're in, you can pick a thing or whatever, of what it would be like to already be in the place that you want to be at for your life. If you guys can see someone there congratulating you on having achieved it, that's even better. If you can think of a meal that you want to eat once you get it, that's great. Okay, now, let me ask you something, a genuine question. I see my aunt. I love you, Brandy. Right? If you really did this, if you actually applied yourself, how many of you could hear something, like a person talking to you or saying thank you, or see something, or smell something? Which one? I typically smell things. That's what I try to do to get deeper with it, right? I try to smell. Me and Kaylee's favorite place to go is Anna Maria Island, right? There's this particular place on that island called Bean Point, and I particularly like to smell the salt water and hear the birds and the slight rustle of people. And then I start to imagine what my toes feel like in sand, and they wiggle. And then I start to think, and I'm telling you guys, I did this for 6 months, and when I was there, and when I returned there in April, knowing that I've accomplished everything I plan to accomplish, there's a really creepy thing that happens when you're standing in where you knew you said you'd be however long ago. And the reality is we're always doing that, right? If you guys take a real accounting and stock of where you're at today, 5 years ago, this is probably all you really asked for. To a T. To a T. I know it's what I asked for. To have you guys here in this room is a dream come true for me. I was in a shop grinding, having to drive 45 minutes one way and standstill traffic 45 minutes the other. No heat, no AC, terrible conditions, upset, hating my life, not making any money, not providing any impact. And I said, I will become the person I want to. And I knew it, and I could feel it, and I could hear it. And I didn't know. I knew I'd have these dreads and these anime tattoos. I didn't know you guys would be the ones in front of me, right? But I knew somebody would. And if you can sustain the best you can living in this feeling, why? It's free, one, right? If you ask yourself, what feels better, doing what we just did or living in unprocessed thoughts and filing cabinet? Which one feels better, right? Off simple math, I would probably pick the other one, right? Like, you don't have to be, I'm no rocket scientist, but I would rather feel like I'm doing better even if I'm not, right? That's what I told myself 10 years ago. It's the only reason I'm still here. What could I have also done? What's the other side of this coin ring, as Jim Rohn says, right? I decided that I'm just a loser who doesn't be able to do anything, and that I have to, because I'm in trouble, I should just keep doing drugs, matter of fact, and I should just stick to just the 9-to-5 path. And there's nothing wrong with working a job whatsoever. I'm not trying to demonize 9-to-5 at all, but I could have just beaten down by the wall and gone back. So the most important part about this wall is, and these are the two lessons, is that when you have the most amount of fear and you're the most stressed and the most overwhelmed and the most, broken and suffering, you are closer than you've ever been. It's important to know this. And what's the opposite? When everything's easy, it is not very challenging, and it's awful comfy, and it feels like a blanket in the pre-warmed up car, right? Like that, that is, you're not even close. You might be delusional if you think that you're making progress while being comfortable, right? It just doesn't work. I don't know why. It's not very fair. I wish it was the other way, right? But it is, right? Okay, so that's the long wall, the long law here. Let me move back up so I don't get lost in the sauce. Okay, now, number 3. The law of reverse drift, right? I'm going to play a little bit on Jim Rohn, right? Papa Jim. Now, Jim talks about something he calls the law of drift. This is also talked about in Napoleon Hill's book, Outwitting the Devil, right? In that book, they call it, this is the devil's most powerful tool is the drift. And the most critical thing, and I can tell you in my life, this is the hardest law to have to face. It's actually the most irritating, but it is still true. So what does Jim Rohn say about the law of drift? The law of drift is that if you don't wake up 40, 50, 60 pounds overweight, right? Nobody does that. You eat 1 cheeseburger, you're fine. All is well, right? But if you eat 3 cheeseburgers 3 times, every day for months and years, then you wake up one day 60 pounds bigger than the person who started the cheeseburger journey, right? Now, Jim Rohn says the act of you slowly getting a cheeseburger here, getting a cheeseburger there, that's called the law of drift. It's like when a piece of wood floats off stream from the rest of the branch, right? Like it's slowly drifting away from the goal, right? Because what happens is you tell yourself, it's fine. You make justifications. I'm okay. I don't really need to. I will do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. I'll do it Monday. When my life catches up, I'll do it. When there's not all this going on. Look, the day that comes that you choose, Jim Rohn says, the day that you say, it's enough is enough, right? And change your life, it happens in an instant. Change happens in an instant. It's a sudden declaration that I will no longer be who I have been up until this point. I refuse. I accept. He says, can you have this day? Any so day you choose. Right? How many times do you need to do it? As many times as it takes, right? And the thing is when we start to proclaim and we start to have this Y over X, right? We have this positive idea. We're not all the way through the wall. Like, I'm going to do it. Well, once you get over here, say you beat it, it's going to constantly pull you and be shining its eyes at you over here at the X over X, right? Perfect example of this is I used to want to play video games, okay? And I've gone through this several times in my life. I want to play games, I don't want to play games, I want to play games, don't want to play games. But every time I fall to the trap of playing video games for hours at night, the last time this happened was about 1.5 years ago, and it broke me, right? I didn't realize it. I just started playing the game. I'm just slowly doing it, and then I start justifying it to myself, of course, right? I start saying, hey, well, I could be a streamer, and I can make money doing that. First off, dude, I suck at the game. I'm not good enough to be with these little, caffeine demons that are on there now. These kids, I don't even understand, bro. Like, they're a whole different level of kids, right? And so I realized that I'm doing something that I'm not good at. It's not providing me any fruit or value. It's actively ruining my sleep and health. And I'm not even happy. I can't sleep. I'm not in the bed at the same time as my wife. I'm making excuses. We're fighting over what? To go get squatted on by a 15-year-old in his room. Like, this is terrible, right? Like, hey, it was really bad. And so one day what got me is I have this mirror by my computer, right? And I'm sitting over here all hunched over, Cheeto breath. I'm thinking like good. And I go like this, and I see the mirror, and I'm like, oh, dude, you're done. Like, this is it right now. Like, go to bed. Let's go to the gym tomorrow. This is bad. Like, we're going to buckle up, dude. And you're in bronze. Like, come on. Like, I don't know. That's a little gamer joke there. But I was in the worst category of all of them doing all that. But what happens is when you have the drift, it doesn't feel like it's doing the wrong thing. It's a slow awareness the wrong way, a slowly falling off. Because my mom's going to laugh about this one, right? The other thing that this can be mistakenly called at times is balance. Right? Okay, now this might be controversial, what I'm about to say, right? In certain phases of your life, you require different levels of attitude, especially in building businesses in the beginning. You don't have time for balance. I hate to tell you this. Your competition is not doing this. And I'm not saying you act on competition. I'm not saying you have to be in grind mode 24/7. But I am saying you need to be very careful about what you use this word for, right? So I used to use playing the game as balance. Like I still need free time. And then, not that he's anybody's favorite person or whatever, but this Andrew Tate video comes up. He's like, why do you guys want to chill all the time? What are you chilling from? And I'm like, shit, what am I chilling from though? Really, honestly. Like what is it that I need to escape or relax? I didn't get anything done today just like yesterday. What do I need to chill? I haven't worked hard, I haven't deserved it, right? And if anything, all this chilling just takes me farther away, adds more unprocessed thoughts, makes me feel farther away from my goal, adds a larger wall of fear. I don't like it, right? But when I say I'm gonna quit and focus on never play video games again, oh, what pops back up? Oh, but your son plays Fortnite, your friends still play the game, don't you ever wanna have fun? Roblox, blah, 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 blah. Right? Like they're the walls, but unfortunately I have to make the choice, right? So here's how you do the reverse of the law of drift, right? Is you pick one thing that you believe that the best version of yourself who is already on the other side of the wall would do every day with regularity. One thing, doesn't matter what it is. It could be food, it could be a working out thing, it could be reading a book, it could be posting that video every day, it could be going to a network, whatever, it could be practicing your gratitude, prayer, whatever. But then you have to do it every day. Because what is this going to do? You're going to drift towards the best version of yourself now by doing the same thing opposite. There's going to be days, how many of you guys see my Aries versus the Sun challenge, right? This is what I'm doing. This is the point. I don't actually care that much about being awake early or going crazy in the gym every day or eating right? Like I get up in the morning to push myself and drift towards the guy who I think will make hundreds of millions of dollars and lots of impact around the world. And I believe every time I envision that guy, he's up before the sun posting it. And every time I post it, every day I get to add to that number. It doesn't always feel good. And I'll let you guys know, there's many days where I'm pissed that I do this. There's a lot of days where I get up and that alarm goes off and I'm like, ugh. I'm like looking at it with one eye, it's all crusted. I'm like, no, bro, because I don't go to bed all the time. But here's the thing. When I post it, I will never, ever in my life feel better sleeping in than I do when I wake up. Nothing. There's no much, like I can't make up the confidence that I have of knowing I can look at anybody who tells me anything about waking up early and be like, you're a bitch, right? Like that's what I want to say, right? Not really, but I have that level, right? Like I'm allowed to do that now. I have a different level of confidence than I did 131 days ago when I started this. And then what also happens is as you keep chugging along and you learn to only take one step at a time, you also don't realize how far you've come. And when you look up, you're like, holy crap, I'm halfway up a mountain. I didn't even notice. The other day I just counted, I was like, dude, I'm only 50 days away from half of a year I haven't slept in. That's crazy. I haven't slept in once, right? That's nuts. And so to me, this is how you drift towards it. And it doesn't always make sense. And another perfect example is how, this will line you up is, I want to talk about my boy John here and some chicken fajitas, okay? So there was a time where Kaylee and I were having a little headbutting day, okay? And she was like, great, let's be honest, it's real, it's healthy, right? So she was like, what do you want to eat? I'm like, I don't know. If any of you guys have ever had this argument, it's the worst, right? So we're like, I don't know. And then I have like an hour and a half until our oldest son has to go to this birthday party, right? And I'm like, I don't know what made me do this, that reverse law, right? I'm like, it's been a goal of mine to serve my wife better and to learn how to cook. I had took this on about 6 months ago, how to cook. And I was like, I got to get better. And I'll be honest, up until this point, I had only ever cooked the easy stuff, right? Like tacos, you just mash up the meat and throw some seasoning on it, it's easy. But I had never done anything like serious. And so I asked Kelly what she wanted for dinner. She doesn't tell me an answer. I'm like, you know what, that's it. The sudden idea shoots into my head. I want chicken fajitas. I'm about to make this. Not only will I make this, I'm not going to ask her for any help or tell her what I'm going to make. I'm going to just go to the store, figure out exactly what it is I need to get and how to cook it. I'll Google everything I don't know, and I'll have this meal made. And then I'm going to take both of our kids to this party and surprise her. She'll have no idea that she will not only get this great meal, but have an hour to herself, and all of it's out of pocket while we're fighting. Great idea, right? I'm like, I look at the time, and I have an hour to accomplish all this. I still have to go to Martin's, right? And I'm like, okay. Now, this is where the fear wall comes up. I was so locked in at the moment, I didn't really notice it, but in reflection, I remember thinking, you only got an hour, bro. Can you even cook that fast? Like, maybe you should just like go to Wendy's or something, take the kids, it'd be fine. She'll still like that. And I'm like, no, I can do it. They do it unchopped in 30 minutes. I can do this. Like, that's what I told myself. I'm like, okay, I'm going. So I go to the store, and I'm like Googling, okay, peppers, onions, got it. And I go, I need some oil. Okay, cool, bang. And I'm looking up in the store. And as I'm about to walk out, I run into my good friend who I hadn't seen in years, John McLaren, who's sitting right here with us today, right? And I got to let you guys know, when I run into John, I'm like mid-checkout. Like, I'm thinking in my head, like, you got 10 minutes to get back to the house, bro, before 30 minutes starts off, you know? And John's here. I'm like, dude, you look amazing. John's lost over 100 pounds, right? A little clap for John, too, because that's impressive, right? Is that all right? And I seen John, and I was like, dang, bro, you look like a whole different person, bro. I can't even recognize you. And now, full disclosure, I had messaged John before in my business about joining some stuff, but just like everybody, he got busy, didn't see the message, all is well. So I'm grabbing these chicken fajitas, and I turned to John, he goes, hey, Eris. I'm like, what's up, man? Dude, you look great. He's like, yeah, thanks, man. I said, hey, I want to join your program. I'm like, what? Okay, sounds great. And so we had to set the meeting, and I'm like, what just happened, right? Now, the reason why I bring this up is because, again, I went to Martin's to make chicken fajitas for my wife because I was trying to live in that best version of myself, thinking that this would push me further along to my goals and overall fulfillment in life. And I run into John, and John, and just for the sake of the business, without any objections whatsoever, easiest, joining our program ever, was like, hey, I'd love to join, brother. I'm happy to be here. He signs up, ends up being my first 3K pay in full. And I was like, John, you changed my life. We changed everybody's else. And John's gone on to get a crazy result since. But the point of me is that I got a new client from trying to make chicken fajitas for my wife. This is a proof of the reverse law of drift. You don't always have to know what you're doing. You just have to do the thing that you believe is the right thing. And that will take you farther than you realize, right? Because there's some things we know aren't the right thing. It's very easy, right? We know, as we said, Cheeto fingers, Fortnite, if you guys aren't cracked at it or whatever and not going to be famous, there is that level, right? I'm not knocking. I tell my son, all right, bro, but if you're not good, bro, we ain't doing it. No, I'm just kidding. The way you can put yourself is by just doing it. And now, the last and final law of self-leadership, right, which I think is the most important, is gratitude, law of gratitude. And it's by far the most important. Because if you guys don't have gratitude, and I'll go into deeper about what I mean by having gratitude, but if you don't make it a regular practice in your life to be grateful for things that maybe at one point in time you didn't have or other people don't have, right? If you don't do it, you'll be forced to deal with the other three laws a hell of a lot more than you would if you did the last one. It's almost impossible to deal with chaos, fear, or negative habits while being grateful for what you have currently done and what you are. And for little stuff, be grateful for the challenges. This is the thing. Most people are grateful for all the positive things that happen, and so that way they forget the challenges. But I'm challenging you guys to learn to be grateful for the terrible things that happen to you. Because those are where you learn the skills. Those are where you're closer to the goals. Those are where you are able to bounce back and to get everything that really is going to matter and help you stay on this road, right? The thing is the law of drift also has another place where it attacks, which is over here on the Y over Y. In our program, we focus on this and we call it the identity shift. Because if you start to do something and get results and you're having a great time with it and everything's all good, but you don't make the shift as into who you are, then you'll end up being the other person again, right? You'll go back. It's not even going back. It's just that's who you are. So why would you do anything else? The other you is not even real if you don't believe it. What's an example of this? When I was trying to quit smoking cigarettes, right? I did this a couple times before it stuck. But the first way I would say it is I would always go, yeah, I'm trying to quit. Man, I'm trying really hard to quit. How many times have you guys been on a diet or something, been like, man, I'm trying to eat healthy. I'm trying to eat clean. I'm trying to work on my business. I'm trying to do this. Okay, well, that implies failure, one. Two, it implies that you think this is harder and outside of your current capacity because you're trying to do it. It's not something you know how to do. And three, which is the worst part, is you're still saying you're the person who doesn't do these things, but you're attempting to become a different one. Now, what's the opposite? How's the other way to do it? When somebody asks me now, hey, you got a square? I say, I'm not a smoker. That's a whole different answer. I'm not a smoker. There's no realm in which I'm going to smoke. No, thank you. It doesn't leave me feeling like I'm in a punishment or in a discipline or in anything. It's just who I am, right? So when you can choose to, for free, assume the assumption and the identity of the person who's already achieved the thing you're trying to achieve before you have results. This is key, right? Because if you do it before you have results, then you'll be grateful now, even though you don't have the results. And then what that will do is make sure that you keep your head down long enough to actually get the results. Because if you try to do things and you look for results at every single step, you'll quit everything you ever did. I promise you. If you guys, we're going to get into on the second session, we've got a break coming up soon here. When we get into the social media, what to do, I promise you, it's going to get increasingly harder over time. This is how it just works, right? If you go to make posts, like we said, and you're looking to go viral, it's not even worth it. I promise you. I've gotten videos. I've had a point in time where in 30 days, my account had 6 million views, right? I made $0 during that time. 0, 0, 0. So views don't mean everything, right? It's just eyeballs. If the eyeballs are looking at something that has no value, it doesn't matter. It's just a bunch of eyeballs on nothing, right? So that's the second session. But the point is that when you start to do these and when it doesn't go the way you planned it and when it is harder than you maybe think, if you can say, man, I'm so grateful that this is challenging because that means I'm going to get to figure it out. Man, I'm grateful that this video didn't get 1,000 views because now I have a chance to prepare and better become the person who gets those views. So that way people don't see me at this less version. I had this realization, you guys, I used to sell my program for way too cheap. And so I used to be upset like, whoa, why am I not getting all these clients like everybody else in my group? What's going on? I'm doing all the things. I'm showing up every day. Well, if I had gotten all these clients at my cheap price that I had said, I'd been miserable. I've been filled up with my whole schedule with no paying, right, and at a wrong rate. So sometimes, again, like we said in the other law, when it's not going good, that's when you're closer. So that's why it's so important to practice gratitude all the time. So that way, you don't have to remember to do it. You guys aren't going to remember to do it if you just do it when it's bad. And I say it that way, right? Now, a good expression is you got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. You know what I'm saying, right? Like if there's no way to just have this tool bag of mental health practices and of being mindful, of processing your thoughts, of making sure you're trying to drift towards your best self, of making sure that you're grateful for everything, of staying focused on where you're at. Are you comfortable? Are you not comfortable? Going through fear repetitively. You can't do all that and only do it when it's hard. Because when it's hard, it's too late. When it's hard, you don't think about other things. It's not easy to remember all the tricks because it's hard, because you're overwhelmed, because the cabinet is full, right? There's the file that says, area said to breathe and remember your best self, right? It's lost in there under all the other crap, right? So you have to constantly bring it up every day, laminate it, put it on your desk, focus, do it every day. And at that point, when stuff pops up, you will know what to do. You may not know everything what to do, but with just following these 4 laws, you will be able to get yourself back onto the route, reroute, like a GPS, right? You might get lost, but you can get to where you need to go, okay? So that is the 4 laws. I will open this up real quick in case you guys have any questions or anything I can explain further about these or give an example on these so far.
and how it relates to the chaos.
Yes.
Almost like you can't, like you got to kind of like
Yes.
shift them together.
Absolutely. Because absolutely. Because the thing is like, when you're drifting away, what happens when you drift is that you, by simple math, you will get less results because you're not doing the thing anymore, right? So then, because you're getting less results and you're drifting away, very rarely do people go, oh, it's because I'm drifting away is the reason I'm not getting results. You just go, shit, I'm not getting any results. And then you start blaming the things and going back into the fear wall. And so then the law of chaos happens because of all the unprocessed thinking of being annoyed with yourself at drifting, right? So the reason why drifting is because everybody knows. Eric Thomas, I don't know if you guys know who that is. He's a motivational speaker. He was here in South Bend a couple years ago, and somebody asked him, hey, how do you know when you're going 150%? And he said, he sat and thought about it. He was like, oh, when you go to bed at night. And I was like, hmm? And he said, if you lay down in your bed and you have nothing but thoughts, and you got to scroll and you can't sleep, then you did not go 150% that day. He said, your body is trying to tell you you still have energy left, right? And that you didn't use it all today. He said, on the opposite, when you do go 150% and your body hits a bed, you fall asleep pretty fast. And obviously there's people who have like sleeping issues, but seriously, like I always tell people, like if you can't go to bed, I know a very simple hack. Get up super early the next day and don't take a nap. All right, if you do those two things, come 9:30, I promise you, I mean, unless you're Superman, I can't do it. I don't have the willpower like that. I hit that bed, I'm asleep, right? I'm gone, 8:30 nowadays. You know? But this is just to what you're saying. Like the law of chaos happens. They all really work in tangent with each other, right? Being ungrateful as well, right? The flip side of the last one is when you're ungrateful for stuff, it goes back to what we're saying. You're thinking about results. You're worried about that. And so therefore you don't have a basis of gratitude. Then you start questioning things. Then you start looking at it. And then the fear agitates. You're more upset with yourself. And then you make a decision based off of lack, right? And, oh, so glad I said that because that was the big point, Earl. Is that how you make all of your decisions moving forward, you should put up against these 4 laws. You should check decisions with these 4 laws. And that will just a quick way to get guaranteed results from today, right? Every time you go to make a major decision, you need to think, am I making this decision because I feel like I'm in chaos? And because I don't have I actually made this decision, or do I just have unprocessed thoughts right now that I need to spend time processing? Because I promise you, the reason I didn't tell you guys how to process your thoughts all the way is because you really know how to do it. If you just ask yourself, I'm going to process the things that I'm thinking of now, you will do it. That's pretty simple. Right? It just takes time and focus, and most of us, no fault of our own, don't do that, right? Nobody's ever said anything about it. Secondly, with the law of fear, right? If I'm going to make a decision in my business or in my life, am I making this decision because I'm in a fear wall or because I need to do this decision and it's closer to the Y over Y version of myself, right? Because sometimes they're going to be scary things. And that's the way to test, right? Does this thing make me more scared or more comfortable? If it's more comfortable, it's probably the wrong choice. If it's something that seems like easier than what you're doing now, you probably shouldn't do that, right? Easy is what we're not chasing. We're chasing the correct thing, the thing that you were meant to do. Because when you do the thing you're meant to do, it'll still be hard, but you will be able to do it, and you won't get so caught up on these 4 laws, right? And then the same thing. What decision am I making? Is this decision drifting me towards or away from my goal? Which way am I going? And the same thing, am I even being grateful, right? Because that's the number 1 key. I know I left it 4th, but it's the more important one because if you can start with that, you likely won't make a different decision, right? If you're in the right mindset, if you practice the 30-second visualization that we did here. So let me just make sure I did not miss anything that I wanted to speak on. I don't think so. So, again, any more? My man.
I know you kind of said that these things are interchangeable and they kind of correlate with each other, but do you consider it to be a linear process? 1, 2, 3, 4?
That's a great question.
The thought, you know?
I think it's linear in the way you'll notice it. So, I think the reason why I present it this way is because we often start in chaos already when we're even trying to go about this. And so usually by being aware of the chaos is the first step. And that's why I would say yes to that question. But ultimately, though, right, a sustained way to be in this is to start with the last one, right? So yes and no. That's to answer your question, right? To start with the last one, you probably won't go through the 3, but the reality is most of us are actively in the first one. So in order to do that, we should go this route, right? And they all kind of work together. That's a great question. Okay, well. Oh, well,
That could be, and this is just my thought, you probably thought it too when I saw this. That's probably was that what was giving me trouble, making me overthink?
absolutely.
Pressure on myself to do correct act.
Well, absolutely,
Words,
absolutely.
like we had said, I see all these words from the script, and
Amen. That's a perfect example. So I'll give more context. So Chad's working inside the program right now to craft an ad that makes sense for his target audience. And so when he got the ad paperwork, right, I sent it to him. He has been going through the program for a while. He has a theory of, he's seen me, he's seen Jeremy, he's seen all this stuff. But when he was presented with the actual task, all of the words and all the language that's used on the ads was very overwhelming to him, right? It was a lot of words he'd never heard before. And all of a sudden, he went from feeling like he knew what he was doing, 100%, I'm the man with the plan, I got the best mentor in the world, right? To, holy shit, there's a lot of big words, I don't know what I'm supposed to say, right? And so, if you're okay with me sharing this, Chad, bro, he freaked out on me, bro. He sent me a message, he's like, bro, I have no idea what to put on this, I'm not feeling good. He let it ruin his whole next 2 days, right? And then when we get to working on it, and he comes to me and shows me what's going on, I says, I totally understand, bro, let's take a look. I hit 2 buttons on his phone and we were back in business. Now, that's not to say that Chad is less than or doing anything. How many of us have been in this exact same position? You're freaking out. Don't know what to do. My mom doesn't even want to get me started on her, the technology. Right? You're freaking out. You're like, I don't know what to do. And then you go and consult somebody who has done it or is already on the other side of the wall. And they're like, no, man, you're good. Calm down. You're like, oh, thank you. Right? But the problem is, and what I also told Chad, what's very important is that no one can take you through the wall but you. No matter how much they love you, no matter how much they hate you, they can't do anything to the everybody say the word apple without saying it out loud. 1, 2, 3. That voice. Okay? I call it the apple voice. Right? No one can do anything to that voice. Nobody. It's yours. But we all know how dangerous that mother, you know what I mean? If you let that voice go rampant and you let it say whatever it wants without checking it, or if you let it repeat the things that negative people in your life, and this is why Jim Rohn talks about standing guard at your mental factory and making sure that you monitor every single thing that goes into your mind. Because what you say up here is primarily composed of what you listen to most of the time. Right? So the reason I'm able to say these concepts and to assimilate them into my own way of thinking and to live through that over the last 10 years is because for the last 10 years, more of what I've listened to is people who talk like this and say positive things than other things. More than rap music, more than anime even, my favorite show. Like I just try to live in as much as I can around that higher level thinking so that way I begin to assimilate it for myself, right? And so this is the key, and I think that's a good place to end maybe here, yeah, for this. So, oh, Marshall, get it in there. No, it's all right.
So can you talk about how, just for your own process, you kind of move through this
Yes.
and put some guardrails around time, right?
Yes.
Obviously, different decisions require this amount of time versus that amount of time. I'm just wondering kind of what it looks like for you a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. So that's a really great question. And in this season of my life I'm in right now, I'm even more ultra protective over it, right? And I could even get better about this. But to answer that, what I noticed is I noticed that the people, again, what did I do? I went and looked at the people who are already where I wanted to go. So I went to my mentors, Jeremy, and all them, and I wondered, how does he spend his time? And so something came up to me recently where I noticed that every week I see his story, he's reading a different book. And I used to think that it was because he was like reading more than one book at a time, but the reality is he just reads more than one book a week, right? And he makes $200,000 a month, right? So he's deemed reading and elevating his mind as a needle moving task. And so what I've done recently is I just kind of ask myself at all times, okay, what am I doing right now? Is it actually the most important thing for my business to get to where I want to go or my life? So most of the times, and this is really hard when you work for yourself, right? When you're the only one telling yourself what to do. And so like with my business, there's so many areas of things I could do. And I'll get a little more with this in the next session too, but like shiny object syndrome's at an all-time high, right? Like I could start a low ticket course. Maybe I could spend time doing videos. Maybe I should spend more time doing going live on TikTok to try to get more people directly to my lower ticket items and then upsell them into this. Should I spend time building out a really long and expensive webinar funnel, blah, 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 blah. So when I'm in that chaos mode, I've asked myself these 3 questions. Number 1, what can I do right now that will move me the most forward with the least amount of time, right? That's the first question. 2, of all the things I just listed, what's the thing that I don't want to do the most? I usually have to do that one first, or otherwise I will never do it. I'll do all the other easy things, and this is just myself, how I operate, right? Like if I go in my office, and what I do every day is I go through my vision board so I can be every morning I get in there, I go through my vision board so I can feel like I've already achieved the life that I want. And that alone puts me in that state of gratitude and deleting most of this to begin with. And so I'm feeling all empowered. And then I'll write down 5 things that I would like to get done today. And then I star the most important one, right? And I call this a power list. And so I do that. And I take that, typically I take the most hard one first, and then I'll go in order. But one thing I always do is I make doing the vision board one of them. So that way I can already cross one off and feel like I'm starting progress, right? So at least at the end of the day, I say I did what I was supposed to, and I did my vision board. I didn't do nothing that day, right? And so then typically for me, I've identified that the most important part of my business is actually just messaging people and having conversations, right? There's nothing else that brings clients more than that. I can't make content my only focus because while it's a huge pillar, it is not the sales, it's the nurturing, right? If I just make a bunch of content and wait for people to hit me up and buy shit, that's never, you guys could try it, it don't work, I promise you. Like, it's not fun. So I realized, okay, all I have to do is message people every day. The best people in my field, they message 100 people a day minimum, right, on their offer. And so I do that most days, bro. And perfect example on like the numbers side of things and the law of drift is like in the last year, I've probably sent close to 8,000 DMs and signed 25 clients or so. So the numbers game is crazy, right? Like you gotta really but then again, if you're grateful and if you know you'll arrive and you know you have a good service, see, I know for a fact that I can help people. That's why I'm willing to do this stuff. Because I know when I told all of you guys to come here today, I knew that I would not have you leaving being like, man, that was a waste of my time. That would keep me up at night, right? But I wouldn't even go out and put my name out there if I didn't believe fully heart of hearts that I could do this for other people, right? And so when I have that belief and it's rooted in gratitude of, hey, like when Chad was the first person to actually take me like super serious, right? And he was the only person, I don't know if you guys know this, but I had a free group for like months, 100% free 99. Chad joined, there was like 40 people that joined the group. Chad is literally the only person who even opened the course. He went through the whole thing, he took notes, fundamentally changed his life in 90 days. Put on 20 pounds of muscle, much more positive. You got Sun here with him, right? Total night and day transformation. But for me, hearing him take me that serious was so important at the time that because I was getting lost in, like what you're saying, not protecting my time. I was doing all these other weird stuff because I didn't have results through sending DMs, right? I think we went over this the other day in person, but like at that point in January, right? Like I was down like $3,500, no clients coming in sight. I'm like, oh man, this is not looking pretty for your boy. I was right in the middle of this. And at the minimum, not only is that, I'm posting videos every day, I'm sending DMs every day, I'm spending thousands of dollars on ads, nothing. Months. Now, this is what, to put all this in the summary, if I wasn't grateful and I didn't know that I was who I was going to be, then any one of those months, I would have quit. Most people would quit. And even further, when I again got results and I got a bunch of people, and then it slowed back down because I sold too much of my one-on-one time, and then I wasn't able to focus on the things that matter, like messaging people, just like we're saying. Then I was like, now I don't have any more income. I thought I was on top of the world. I'm out here talking crazy on social media like I'm the king, and now my numbers are down. What's going on, right? But I could have quit, and I did. I got shiny object syndrome. We worked on the other in-person events, the mastermind. I had a couple different clients I was like hawking to try to get that done. And then that whole 6 months, I basically spent not messaging people, even though that's what got me all of my clients for the last 6 months. So it's the perfect example. Like, I was living in chaos, right? Because I was ungrateful for the fact that I did sign clients. And so then I would start, you and me were on the golf course when I had this dumbass thought. I said, I don't think this funnel's working very well. Like, the one that I made like $15,000 from, I don't think I don't know, maybe I should talk to somebody else, right? Like, it's idiotic, right? But like, that's just how it goes, man. Like, even the top of us. And I talk to people every day, like, my coach Jeremy, he's had the same thought, right? He got around his mentors and they told him, you just don't live systemized enough. Basically, Jeremy asked us, it's probably 6 months ago, he said, what are you guys afraid of about being really successful in scale the most? What are you most afraid of? And he had us all write it down and share with him, right? And, to answer like your question on personal, I said, one of the things I'm most afraid of is losing my family in chase of the results I want, right? Because I don't want to lose the love that I have with my wife and my kids just to be some rich dude in a mansion by myself somewhere. That doesn't sound like the life I want to live. And that definitely doesn't sound like wealth to me, right? And so I put that in there, right? And he's like reading them off. He's like, okay, yep, lose the time with the family. Okay, people knowing where you are. Okay, getting canceled. Maybe like, and he reads them all off and he goes, okay, here's the best part. That's only true, like if right now, that would only be true if you were to be the most successful of yourself right now, because you don't have enough skills to make that not true. But it doesn't mean that it's gonna be not true forever. So what he's saying is that there's people, like I said earlier, who have more kids, they spend more time with their family, they run more companies, they do more things, and they have the same 24 hours because their life is more systematized, right? And they have built more skills to ensure that they can maintain that level of ultra, computing, right? But I don't think anybody should start that way. That's why I said against balance, like not doing good is like Myron even says, you have seasons where it's like balance is like this when you're building. It's like focus, balance. In the beginning, focus, balance, focus, balance. He said, but as you build wealth in the rest of your business correctly in a one-to-many offer, that like it changes to where you have more balance to focus to where eventually it's even. Like you work just as much as you focus, or you balance just as much as you focus. He said, but then, like where he's at, where you literally only have to focus this much, and then the rest of the time is balance, right? Like Myron, he was like, and then he went off on a list. He's like, I spend most of my time playing golf. You know how he does it. He's clicking his Rolex. He's like, I don't even coach that much, right? Like that's how Myron Golden talks. But like, a long story short, I try to protect my time. I try to focus on what's going to move the needle. And then if I'm with my family, something I've been working on better. I was really not good at this, to be honest. Like I've been trying to be more like with them when I'm there. Like, so that way, because there was this other thing that was happening where Jim Rohn says, don't be at work when you're at the beach and don't be at the beach when you're at work. That doesn't make any sense. He said, you got to be where your feet are, And so for me, sometimes I would have these moments, again, not being grateful, not being in the right mindset where I'm not getting the results that I want. So therefore, I'm thinking, I have to be at work longer because I have all these different things that I could be doing, so I need to go to work. And so lately I've been trying to really be like, well, dude, all you really need to do is make content and message people. There's like everything else is a nice to have. That is the most important thing. And you can do that from pretty much anywhere if you're focused. And like I've even learned now to where I make all my content on Monday. I try to for the whole week because I realized if I keep leaving it up to myself to do it every day, I won't do it. So instead, if I focus and spend 1 hour getting it done in my office on Monday, now I'm free all week to just have to edit, which for me is a very easy task to edit, and then it keeps my mental energy high. And so then I spend most of the week chilling. Yep. And we've done, since I've relaxed, things have gotten better. Like, since I stopped trying so hard to be successful, then it seems like it comes a lot quicker. So that's another little tidbit there. But any other questions? Gang, gang. All right, so it is, that's good because we got the no lunch thing, so this works out perfect. So it's 10:56 now. I'll turn the music back on. You guys can go to the bathroom, get some more stuff, take a stretch or whatever, talk amongst yourselves. And then we'll start up again at 11:15. We'll do 15 minutes just to stretch. And then I'm going to go in on this next section. I'm going to delete this too, so if you wanted to keep this. This next section, I'm going to go in and show you guys. I'll pull up my Instagram and show you exactly what I do to get new clients. And I'm going to show you the funnel that I basically paid $8,000 for to learn. And I'm going to show you everything that I got about that. And I'm going to also give you the 7 deadly sins of social media that you cannot do if you want to be taken seriously or like an authority and to actually get customers on the regular. And as social proof, I have signed people from all over the world. So we should get going. So I'll see you guys in about 15 minutes. And yeah, we'll go from there. Gang, gang.